Hey guys, Steve with Tony here. I've got a couple switches that I'm going to go through today. It's kind of a little tech. This is from the shop truck. This is a new wiper washer. The old one is all blown apart, so that one was shot. This one's out of a donor truck. I've cleaned it up a little bit. One issue with this particular switch is it's a non-serviceable switch. So if yours is bad, you're going to need to find one that'll work. It's non-serviceable because it is melted. These tabs are melted into the faceplate, so it looks like it may come off, and you could get it off, but you're going to need to melt it back together after you service it. So what I did with this particular one is I took some electrical contact cleaner and just shot it inside and worked it back and forth to get it all the dirt and grime out of there. I did it before enough where it was kind of running out the back. And then what I'll do is I'll take some dielectric grease. They make dielectric grease that's in a spray, and I'll put that in there. Since I can't get in there with regular dielectric, so we put that in there, operate it a little bit. You know, this is the pretty plain Jane GM model of this switch that just, it's off, on, wash, and slow, fast. That's all you get. So that is about it for servicing this. I'm just going to dry this off here. I don't have a compressor in this part of my shop, so I use I keep a duster nearby so I can kind of clean some of this stuff off. So that's servicing this wiper washer switch. What I'll do after this is dry it out and all the grease is settled down is I'll come in here behind with some detail cleaner. I clean this up, check the leads on the back, make sure that they're clean. Clean them up if you need to. There's a light that goes in here, make sure that's good. Careful if you get too aggressive. This is already starting to turn white from the contact cleaner because it is kind of a solvent, and it'll whiten that up. But I'll put some vinyl dressing on there to kind of bring the black back. And of course, when it's in the dash, I don't have them. Yeah, I don't really have. You know, a lot of this can be seen, but not all of it. You know, clean up that windshield wiper if you need to. You know, give it a little bit of blast of air in the back to kind of get some of the cobwebs out. Could get a little toothbrush in there, I suppose, but just use, like I use this Turtle Wax dash and glass for a lot of stuff because it's good for glass and dash, so it doesn't have oils in it. So I just kind of keep a couple of those around and douse stuff down. Use some of these little cheapo China bristle brushes that are usually about that long. I cut them back to here so I can kind of dig with them a little bit, get in some of these cavities. Or you could get a detailing brush, but these are good. Once I've exhausted it and I'm tired of it, I can throw the thing in the garbage and not feel bad about spending $10 for a little brush. These are probably about 50 cents. So the next, okay, that's the wiper washer. The next switch is a headlight switch. If you've never pulled one of these out when this is in the vehicle, it's like this, and when the knob doesn't come out because you have to push. There's a little spring button there. Once you get it out to that point, you push that down, work it a little bit. Yeah, be stubborn, and out it comes. See, it's got a little catch on the end there, little point. So that comes out. This is the nut that holds it into the dash. It has a pin here that locates it up or down in the dash, and then this locks it to the dash in behind the bezel. I just usually use a pry bar or a big screwdriver to get that open. If you got anything flat like that, a nice wide stiff putty knife would work on that. Usually they're not rusted too bad unless it's been sitting outside, and then you may not want the switch anyways if it's that bad. This switch is serviceable because it has a tang here and a tang here that if we squeeze down and just kind of ease that up a little bit, that side's free. Notice how I'm holding it down, because you pretty much need to assume, yeah, a little bit more here. You need to assume on any of this stuff that there are springs in here, especially when there's contacts and moving parts. Yeah, because it's pushing up a little bit. So this comes up and forward, releasing the dimmer control. And then here's the front dimmer, but you can see how nice and dirty that is in there. As we take some of these parts out, I'll try to keep them oriented the way that they came out. So I have a better chance of getting them in there right. Yeah, there's all kinds of, oh, it's a box elder bug or a fly or something. Oh, we got some busted pieces in there. Hopefully it's nothing too big. Let's see. Okay. This front acts like it would come out, except that it is locked in to that other one, so I'd have to bend some plate back to get that to open. So I'm not too worried about that. Really what I'm worried about is inspecting those contacts and making sure that everything is how I want it to be. So I'm going to take my contact cleaner and just over here off to the side, give that a good bath inside and out. Take my air, speed up the drying process a little bit. Try not to freeze your hands with this stuff. If you shake it too much, it does come out in a liquid form, which is very cold. Okay, just kind of, you can see in there, it's much better. It's a lot cleaner. The contacts look decent. Let's see here. So that's that part. The lid's even dirty, so I'm going to give that a little blast off here. Okay, I'll wipe that up a little bit. Okay. I'm not doing a restoration or concourse cleanup here, so this has a plate for the dimmer on it, so we want to make sure those contacts are good. Yeah. With the contact cleaner, you want to try not to get it on too much plastic, because it doesn't really necessarily like plastic. So I try to make sure I have other cleaners around. This is wax and grease remover. Just like Duplo stuff, Duplicolor stuff, I think, for that. Okay, that's good. So I cleaned up the lid. I cleaned up the knob for the dimmer. I cleaned the inside, and I also am gonna, poke around a little bit. There's a little bit of grease in there that I don't want in there, because I'm going to put new grease on the contacts. If I can get that out of there. Okay. Well, it looks good. There's not much in there for action. I'm just going to take a pencil eraser that I have sitting here and scrub down the slides, anything copper, anything that looks like it's had something moving on it, just to clean that up. So we got it all clean. Most erasers have a little bit of abrasive in it to help them erase, so that's why I'll keep an eraser or a pencil around for some of these copper areas. I also have this Dremel here with a little brush if things need to get real medieval. So there's that part, and then here's the part that does all the work, which consists of a top plate. There's a spring in the middle. Then if we flip it upside down, there's two contacts that bridge the gaps in here to go between off and parking lights and headlights. So what I'll do with this is I pulled the spring in the top plate out, and this top plate is actually the lock for the mechanism here. When this goes in, it catches on that to give you, oh, where am I at here? There we go. Yeah, that's the end of it, the end of this, and that's spring loaded, so it grabs onto that little end. So that's just how that works. So this looks serious because it's metal, but notice it's steel, it's not copper. So because it's in the switch and it's steel, it doesn't do anything. It's a retainer. So I'm gonna blast this off camera with some cleaner. Okay, we'll give it a little wipe here. Get the grease off. That's better, nice and shiny. Clean those up a little bit. Okay, so there's that. Here we have that spring that goes in the top, and then we have this metal piece. I'm just going to use brake clean for that. Since I have some here, we'll get that top clean. This top plate does serve, or this little angle does serve two purposes. If you notice, it has a button on the top. That button is spring loaded and it rides in these grooves to give you your positive feel for when you're changing modes of the switch here. So so this doesn't need lube. This doesn't need lube because it's just a spring on there. This needs lube, so I have some dielectric grease, which will help everything slide. I'm gonna load up the slides from front to back. There's 4 of them here. Okay, because you can see there's 4 contacts there. So I did 4 runs front to back on there. So it's got that good, and then I can drop that in there. Okay, now this has to move back and forth. So I'm gonna, since I have the dielectric grease here, I'm just gonna, it looks like it was white lithium before, I'm just gonna load this up with some of that. Okay, as I'm putting this together, there's some things that kind of need to go together. This front dimmer piece needs to go. It actually rides on the cone, and there's a positive stop on there. And so when I put that in, I need to kind of two-hand it here to get that over the hump of the dimmer. And there it's back together. Now I have to bend these tangs back down. There's one side. There's the other side. Okay. So if I take this and I stick it in there, oh, there was a positive catch. So we got our dimmer, we have our lights. It always feels different when it's in the dash, but there we go. Don't worry about lubing these contacts because they're kind of out in the open, and they'll get a little too gooey if you put dielectric on there. I've never seen one from the factory that had any kind of dielectric on here, because like I said, it's an open spring that gives variable resistance. So so no, that feels good. Again, if we pull it out most of the way, push the button down, it comes right out. And so there we have a switch that's been reworked, and now this can go into the shop truck. Thank you for watching.